today we're going to be talking about a subject that comes up quite often about multi-brand versus single brand. Which one should I do? I get asked this question probably once every couple months, and I feel like I've recorded probably a handful of podcasts on this, so I think it's time to hit it again. And it's an important question. So if you have a group practice, do I take that group practice and just make it one brand, ABC Dental, or do I make each of the brands separate? So each practice has a local name tied into it. And there's pros and cons to each of them. And so I'm going to work through that, and then I'm going to give you a framework at the end to help you be able to navigate this and so you fully understand it, okay? We got a goal to get to 10,000 subscribers, and 85% of you are not subscribed to the channel yet. So make it happen. Subscribe. Tell them.
Subscribe.
Good job. Make it happen. First thing that you want to think about is when you're talking about branding and should I name, one brand or should I have multiple brands, is that you have to know what your goal is. Okay? So if you're at 2 practices and you want to go to 100, it's going to be a different strategy than if you're at 2 practices and you just want to go to 4. And it's not going to have as big of your decisions aren't going to have as big of an impact if that's the case. So you need to get super clear on what your goals are. Now that you have that, so now you go, you know what, I'm at 2 practices, I want to go to 100, 2 practices, I want to go to 50. Now you need to start thinking through and weighing the pros and the cons of how you're building your organization. Are you going to be the sole owner of that organization with no partners? Is each practice going to have a partner inside of it where you're going 50-50 with them or something else? How are you structuring it? Because that's going to play a huge part. Are you doing acquisitions? Are you doing de novos? That's all going to play a huge part. Why? Why does that matter? Well, if you're doing a de novo, you can get away with a lot more with the name, right? If you're doing all acquisitions, I wouldn't recommend going in, buying the practice, and immediately changing the name. It's a much longer process. So now that we got that nailed down, you know what your vision is, you know what you want to do, you know how you're moving forward. Now we can start talking about the name. So the name of the practice. So what's the pros of just having one name? Well, the pros of having one name, ABC Dental, with like 50 locations, is that you can just manage that, and it's a lot easier on the marketing side because you have one name, one website. It's easier on signage, one name, one website, or one kind of sign design, and you're done. Letterhead, all that kind of stuff, way easier. It reduces your cost from that standpoint. Anytime you go to add a new location, instant SEO because all the other locations are already ranked. You have 50 locations. You add the first location, it's already going to have SEO juice behind it because the other 50 locations are going to help push it up. So super fast. You also have spillover opportunity. What does that mean? Well, if you have 3 practices in a similar town, all with the same name, all on the same website, if you're marketing and you add a 4th location and you're marketing for the first 3, that 4th location is going to get new patients way faster because there's going to be people calling from the other practices going, oh, I want that location. And so you just get this bleed over effect. That is really cool. It's good and very impactful. So that's the upside. What's the downside to having one location, one name? Well, PR can become a big issue. If you have 1 or 2 of those practices go sideways, and let's say you have a doctor who gets a DUI, drives his car through a front of an orphanage and hurts somebody. Well, when they say ABC, doctor from ABC Dental, that can hurt all of the brands. And it doesn't matter how big you are. And I'm going to give you some examples of this happening in real life. Okay? And so that's the downside, is that there's risk involved. So what's the pros about doing a multiple brands? Well, the multiple brands is you can be much more flexible. You can partner much easier. I can say, hey, Dr. Smith, we're going to name this practice after you, Dr. Smith. And we can be more aggressive with SEO terminology. ABC Dental in Springfield. Best dentist in Springfield, you can name your practice, right? And so then it's going to rank better It's easier to rank because you have a better URL for SEO, not quite as optimized for name recognition, but more for SEO. You can do stuff like that. You also don't suffer from the PR risk. What's the downside to having multiple brands? Well, you got to make multiple brands. Every single time you have to make new logos. Every single time you have to make new signs. Every single time you have to get new letterhead, new websites, new copy. You have to brand new copy on every single website. When you have multiple locations, you can use the same copy if it's on the same website, but not if it's a separate website. You can't do that. So you have to rewrite all the copy. So you're sure you don't get dinged on that. So there's a lot of advantages and disadvantages to both. This is why knowing where you want to go is so important. Now, what's the framework that helps us make the decision that we would all understand? It's the three different choices that you have. So the first choice that you have is Aspen Dental, the Aspen Dental model. If you go in Google search Aspen Dental, you'll see their website pop up. You'll see hundreds and hundreds of locations on it under one website. Much easier to manage. Again, the SEO benefit right away out of the box for the new location. They do all de novo, so they just can name it Aspen, get those up really, really quickly. Disadvantages, there's Facebook groups called I Hate Aspen Dental with people in there organizing to sue Aspen Dental because they have one name. That's the downside. They're in there and there are people, you can go into the group. There's crazy things that they're saying in there, the patients. And so they just, bad things happen when you're that big. There's a lot of bad things can happen. And people can go and complain and find one place and say, and everybody knows who you're talking about. It's Aspen Dental. If you had 1,000 different practices with different names, that would never happen. So that's the downside. Then you have the Heartland model, which is the complete opposite of the Aspen model. And I'm just talking about from a branding marketing standpoint. Okay, I'm not talking about how they're structured as DSOs and things like that. So with Heartland, every practice has a different name. So that means every single time you're building a new marketing, new everything from scratch, whatever the name's going to be. And you can't really identify, like you couldn't walk down the street and say that's a Heartland practice right there. You couldn't do that. You wouldn't know. You would just think, oh, that's another local dentist. Now, again, there's pros and cons to both sides. Then there's a middle road, though. There's a third one. And that is the Pacific Dental model. So what's the Pacific Dental model? Well, Pacific has one website, one logo, but every practice has a different name. So they use the same rollout of everything. Like if you've ever walked into them, they look very similar, but they're all named differently. So you have advantages and disadvantages to that. Again, the advantages is that you don't have to build a brand new website every time. You've already built the website. But you don't get the SEO benefit of having them all on one site. But you do get the SEO benefit of having a local name. You don't have to build a new logo. You don't have to build a new sign. The signs are slightly different because the names are different, but the logos are generally, it's like the same. All their pamphlets, all that stuff is all the same. You're just changing out the name and changing out the pictures on it. So that is a huge advantage to kind of meet in the middle to make it a little bit easier from a marketing perspective. So there's pros and cons to all of these. So I would love to hear from you down below which model is most appealing to you. If you're going to grow a practice, you're going to grow, which one are you using? Which approach are you using? And why are you choosing that? I would love to hear from you. There's a lot of different answers out there, but hopefully that model helps you. If it does, just give us a thumbs up, comment down below. And if you listen this long, we got a $3,000 marketing bonus for the faithful listeners. And if you would like that, there's a link right down below. You can fill it out and you get a $3,000 marketing credit if you're going to work with us. And if you're an existing client, we also have something for you on there. You can fill it out and say you're an existing client. We had something different. So thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great day.